Okay, let's talk about hand pain, forearm pain, wrist pain, things like that with gripping and pressure through your wrist and everything we talked about the other day. So what I'm going to look at first are the muscles that actually flex the fingers and the wrist, but we're going to start with the fingers. So if we zoom in, you'll see that there's all these different tendons that come down that come from the same place in your carpal tunnel. They're separate from your thumb. So they come all the way down. That is your flexor digitorum superficialis. You don't have to remember that. Here, I'll slide it over so you can see over here on the left the name of the tendon I'm on. And what that does is let me just show you, flexes the fingers and the wrist. Right? So that's painful for you in the morning. Now, it does not go all the way to the actual tip of the finger, but it bends all of them. So let's go back. And just when I say not to the very tip, this one on the very end, it stops just shy of, but when it's flexing, it pulls. This tendon is also, if you can see it runs, it's kind of connected here. So this is called your profundus muscle. And what it does is very much the same, but it's just that it's responsible for the tip of the finger. Okay, let's go back. Now, if you can see, the hand is super intricate. It's very interesting. So if you'll see these muscles here, these are called your lumbricals. They actually stem off of these tendons from the flexor digitorum and from your profundus is what I'm just going to call them. So interestingly enough, they obviously all dynamically work together, but they are super deep, and what they do is assist in that grip. So it's assisting, but it is pulling, if you can see where it is connected. Let me take it, there we go. It flexes just at this knuckle. So from the side, there we go. So like if you're gonna hold a sandwich, it's kind of how we look at that, like a hamburger. So they do a couple different things, and so they all work at the same time when you have full fist grip because everything is firing, but it is important to know that there's different muscle use with different things. And in pottery, like you're doing, there's some things where you're kind of, when you're making something coned up, I'm assuming, I don't know all of the technical details, but you're going to squeeze more from here versus digging your fingertips in because you're not going to want to dig into the clay, is my assumption there as well. So where you're getting pain, you are really tender in all of these guys in between. Now, if I take off another layer, so the hand is just super intricate. All I'm taking off right here is this thenar and hypothenar that move your thumb and your pinky. I'm gonna go down one more. Okay, let's several down. These are called your interosseous muscles. They do squeezing your fingers together. So if you can see, there's just obviously a difference. This one right here is going to squeeze the pinky in. This is going to squeeze the ring finger that way. And you can obviously kind of tell where they are going. Those are also deep. Those are also working when you're trying to keep your hand taut together. Like gripping tennis racket. When you're really trying to have a firm grip, everything's going to turn on. But again, in pottery, if you're trying to have a nice, stable, smooth hand, you're going to be firing all of these guys to have a nice, stable hand when you're throwing clay. Let's go back and see where the other muscles, where they come up from. So the profundus that we were looking at. Okay. Actually, let's go back down here and zoom on in. So this is the flexor digitorum superficialis, the one that goes almost to the end, but not really, and the other one comes through. And if you can tell, let me take off one more layer. Oh, it doesn't want to take off just the top one. That's okay. So it goes underneath. It comes all the way up. So you'll hear things like tennis elbow. It'll be more on this inside. So if you can tell where this attaches, it sits right here on that inner part of the elbow. Underneath your flexor carpi radialis, that bends just the wrist. You can see where it stops here. So definitely used quite more in tennis, also in pottery trying to stabilize. But if we take down one more layer, This is the flexor digitorum profundus that we were looking at. Okay, and so it obviously stems from way up here as well on that inner elbow. So let's go ahead and add on the nerves because this is relevant and important to what I've tested on you and what's been positive. So this is your ulnar nerve, the funny bone where it sits right here in this groove, and it comes all the way down and it comes into the hand. So remember that for just a second, because when I come back to these intrinsic hand muscles, some of them are innervated by the ulnar nerve, some are innervated by median nerve. But let's take another look at where ulnar comes from. You'll see it comes right here through the funny bone area, and then it goes underneath your tricep muscle. And then we'll just move this on the back side. Let's take off another layer. It comes up here, so it goes underneath the back side of the shoulder blade. It's probably an easier way to look at it from the top. Comes all the way up, and it eventually matches up with your brachial plexus. The other one, sorry, I'm just all over the place here. I don't have my mouse at the moment. So your median nerve, also in the area, that's the one that when you hear about people having carpal tunnel is the most common one they're talking about. It comes through, and I'll put the muscles here in a second and show you which ones are important. But it comes through right here in the middle and then goes right through. This is the carpal tunnel. So when it gets compressed, there's hand pain. But again, some of these muscles are innervated by median, some are by ulnar. So let's put on. All right, so we already have a little site of impingement. If you can kind of see through this hole here. So median nerve comes down and goes through the hole of your flexor digitorum. So if that's getting irritated and there's inflammation around there, or way deep to that was the profundus that we looked at as well. And then let's take a peek from the back side. You can see through this side where that median nerve is very deep to all those muscles. Okay, now let's look at ulnar nerve and profundus. Okay, flexor digitorum profundus sits right here with your ulnar nerve. So when I got on here in this general area, you were pretty tender. Up in here, you were tender. It runs right along with it. So whenever we're looking at muscles that are used a lot, we got to look at, okay, if they get irritable or they're, a little bit of overuse, something happens, little inflammation, we got to look at the nerves in the nearby area also. Because if they have any kind of chemical irritation or friction, or maybe there's inflammations pinching on it, you're going to experience discomfort down here. So let's come back to the concept of these lumbricals and which ones are innervated by what. So, actually, let me go to the deeper one. All right, these are ulnar nerve. That one is also ulnar nerve. And this one is median nerve. So you see how it's ringside, half of the middle finger is ulnar nerve, and then these all turn into median nerve. So that's always interesting when we've got two different things, but the hand, when you're getting pain kind of globally in here. Now, the only thing that I wanted to show you also that I haven't addressed yet is how we stretch those lumbricals. That's the one that I showed you where we are flexing here, or flexing at this joint, sorry, and extending here for that sole reason of where you can kind of see this guy come down. You want this joint to be stretched into extension, but you want this one to be flexed. So that is in your homework. And obviously all of them lead right back up to the neck. So we always want to address the neck and always want to do nerve glides to make sure the entirety is gliding. Okay, sorry, this is super long, but hopefully that gives you a little bit more kind of understanding or visual of what's going on in the area. Got lots of options, could be a blend of a lot of things because you're very active, but the cycling hurts because you crank right here on the carpal tunnel, and I think it irritates down there. And then obviously you're using your hands all day, and once things are warmed up, they tend to feel good. But overnight, it's like things get stiff and I just don't feel like they're necessarily gliding very well. So that's why I want to do the nerve glides, really stretch all of this out, and hopefully get back to not so much discomfort in the hand in the morning.